the worst thing that just happened to you might be the luckiest moment of your life. That sounds like a paradox, does it not? Because usually we label every event. This is good, that is bad, this is lucky, that is misfortune. But have you ever paused, taken a deep breath, and asked yourself, am I reading life's message the wrong way? Try to remember the last time you felt truly unlucky. Maybe it was the day you missed a bus, showed up late to work, and scolded yourself that your whole day was ruined. Yet that afternoon, because you were late, you happened to run into an old friend you had lost contact with for years, and you told yourself, if I had not missed that bus this morning, this reunion would never have happened. Or perhaps you have heard the kind of story that gives you chills. Someone is furious about being held up at the airport, convinced it is a terrible injustice. But the flight they were forced to miss later suffers a tragic accident. That person would say afterward, the worst moment of my day turned out to be the reason I am still alive. What we call luck seems to tease us endlessly. When what we want does not happen, we feel unfortunate. When what we want does happen, we quickly decide we are lucky. But over time, outcomes can reverse completely. The lottery winner suddenly becomes a millionaire, and a few years later goes bankrupt. The family fractures, friends drift away. Meanwhile, someone who lost everything in an accident finds a chance to begin again, living more honestly and more deeply. Do you see? The same event, but the label we attach to it changes with time. Today you call it bad luck. 5 years from now you are grateful it happened. There is something mysterious at work here. We think we are observing reality, but in truth, we are telling a story. It is a story the brain composes to make us feel safe, to let us believe the world is orderly. When we win a game, we whisper to ourselves, I am lucky. When we lose, we grit our teeth and think, next time will be different. But does the world really care about those labels? Imagine this. You are flipping a coin. It lands heads 10 times in a row. A voice inside you shouts, no way. Next time must be tails. But in reality, the odds are the same as before. 50%. The coin does not owe you any balance. The universe pays no attention to the sense of fairness beating in your heart. Even so, we keep assigning meaning. A long winning streak? You think, destiny is on my side. A long losing streak? You whisper, luck is about to return. That illusion is what keeps us misreading fate. Maybe luck is not in the event. Maybe it lives in how you see the event. A heavy rainstorm can be a nightmare for a street vendor and a priceless gift for a farmer who just planted seeds. One storm, 2 opposite fates. So what is luck? An objective truth, or only a subjective story you embroider inside your mind? At first, this may make you uneasy, even a little anxious, because if it is true, then what we call luck has never existed the way we thought. It is only a mirror reflecting your mind. When you are content, the mirror reflects good luck. When you are dissatisfied, the mirror magnifies misfortune. So, do you dare believe that everything you have ever called lucky or unlucky is only an illusion you have been living with all along? Have you noticed that we usually name luck only after things have already happened? When you escape an accident, you call it luck. When you win a game, you boast that fortune smiled on you. But when you stand inside an unfolding crisis, when nothing is clear yet, you sink into worry, fear, and doubt. Right there is where the illusion quietly forms. Your mind labels the event through the eyes of the past. It selects a slice of the story, exaggerates it, then declares, this is luck, that is bad luck. But the truth is, both exist only in thought. not in the event itself. Look at the lives of people who have won the lottery. There is a quiet statistic. Most are not happier, and many fall into tragedy. Some divorce, some lose all their money, some end up lonely. Meanwhile, a person who once lost everything in a crisis writes an inspiring book, starts a charity, and lives a deeply meaningful life. So which one is luck? Perhaps the paradox is this. We think luck is a random gift from the outside, but in reality it is shaped by your capacity to read the story inside. People call that your frame of mind. Psychology has shown this many times. There is a phenomenon called hindsight bias. After an event, we tend to believe it was obvious or bound to happen. You escape death in an accident. You feel protected by destiny. You lose repeatedly in a game of chance. You believe the next round will surely be a win. But both are tricks of the mind. The universe does not whisper to you at all. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That sentence echoes across the centuries, reminding us that suffering or happiness does not live in events, but in how the mind chooses to look at them. Picture another example. Someone loses a job. That day, life feels like it has collapsed. But years later, they look back and say, "That was the day that forced me to change and opened a new path." So was the day they were laid off a misfortune or a stroke of luck. If you pay attention, at every stage, the luck label shifts with perspective. And if it can keep changing like that, how can it be an objective truth? Clearly, luck does not exist as a law of the universe. It is an illusion drawn by the flow of your thoughts. Yet this leads to an even deeper paradox. If luck is only an illusion, then are all our attempts to find luck, from charms and prayers to belief in fate, just mind games? Why do humans keep leaning on them, clinging to them, even letting them guide life's biggest decisions? Perhaps because we cannot bear randomness. Humans fear the unknown. To resist that chaos, we create a story that an invisible hand deals luck and misfortune, that the world is governed by some kind of fairness. That is not truth, but a sedative that lets us sleep in a universe that is indifferent. And then the big question opens. If luck is only the story you tell yourself, what happens if one day you stop believing it? Do you lose comfort? Or do you touch a new freedom when you are no longer chained by the illusion of luck and misfortune? Let that question echo quietly in your mind, because perhaps in that stillness, you will begin to look back at everything you have called luck and realize you were never reading it correctly. If a coin has landed heads 10 times in a row, the next flip must be tails. Have you ever thought that way? This is one of the strongest mental illusions humans fall into. It is called the gambler's fallacy. We believe the world must balance itself, that after a long run of good luck, bad luck must appear to even the scale or the opposite. But the harsh truth is this: the universe does not keep records of previous coin flips. Each flip still has 50% for heads and 50% for tails. Still, people hate randomness. Your brain is wired to search for patterns. When you see 3 heads in a row, you begin to expect tails. When you see 10 losses in a row at a slot machine, you whisper, "Next time will surely be a win." But in reality, the slot machine does not owe you anything. Imagine yourself in a casino. Bells ring, lights flash, cheers rise from the winners and make your pulse quicken. You bet on red in roulette. The wheel spins, the ball falls on black. You lose money. Second round, black again. third, fourth, fifth, still black. Your heart pounds and a voice shouts in your head, "No way. The next one has to be red." You double your bet. The ball lands. Black. You go broke, sit there stunned and ask, why does bad luck cling to me? This is the blind spot in our thinking. You did not really lose because luck abandoned you, but because your brain fooled you with a story about fair balance. This does not happen only in the casino. It seeps into daily life. After many failures in a row, you comfort yourself. After the rain comes the sun. After many wins in a row, you worry. Something bad must be coming. You write a rule of balance onto life, but the universe does not follow that script. Probability says clearly, independent events do not affect one another. But your mind does not accept that cold fact. It needs a story that there is a hand arranging things. It craves a sense of fairness. Out of this, the illusion of luck is born. Think about it. If you live your whole life believing the world owes me one big lucky break after a string of failures, you may be locking yourself into an endless loop. You place faith in a gift that does not exist, and when it never comes, you call it misfortune. But if you release that illusion, you will see a truth that is frightening, yet freeing. The universe does not owe you anything. This realization drops you into a deeper paradox. If luck and misfortune are only random, then do your choices truly matter? Or is everything just a chain of accidents, while you cling to an illusion to soothe yourself? Here is the scary blind spot. On one hand, you cannot live without meaning. If everything is only random, life feels empty. On the other hand, when you load too much meaning onto events, you fall into a trap. You believe you can control luck. You believe the universe owes you balance. So what should you choose? Believe in cold randomness, or keep telling the luck story to comfort yourself. There is no definitive answer. And perhaps that tension between the two is the secret paradox that humans must live with. Why then do we hunger to find order in chaos? Why can we not accept that events may simply be random? Nothing more. The answer may lie in our deepest nature. From the beginning, your ancestors lived in a dangerous world. Sudden thunder, predators in the dark, illnesses without explanation. To survive, the brain evolved to find patterns. If you heard rustling leaves and guessed it was a predator, you had a better chance to live, even if 9 times out of 10 it was only the wind. Your mind learned to see meaning even when there was none. That habit remains inside you today. When you meet a stranger and feel an instant connection, you call it destiny. When you escape an accident by inches, you decide you have a fate. And when you lose repeatedly in a game, you whisper, next time must be a win. Look closely. There is no rule that guarantees any of this. It is all an illusion your mind creates to cope with life's randomness. Philosophy has long questioned the line between chance and necessity. Aristotle believed the world runs on causes, yet leaves room for chance. Events without clear purpose or reason. The Stoics emphasize something else. It does not matter how events occur. What matters is how you choose to see them. Here is the subtle paradox. You live in a universe that seems indifferent, yet your need to assign meaning turns it into a story full of luck, fate, and fairness. So is luck real, or only a veil you weave to cover a frightening chaos? Consider another example. A person is struck by lightning. The odds are extremely small, roughly 1 in 1 million. If that person survives, they may feel chosen. that their life carries a special mission. From the perspective of physics, it is only the meeting of electric charge, humidity, and random position. A natural phenomenon that does not care about you. So which one is the truth? Perhaps both are true, depending on how you choose to see. Science gives you probability, and the mind gives you meaning. In that overlap, the paradox is born. You are both the one fooled by illusion and the storyteller who makes life worth living. Yet the paradox goes even further. If everything is random, do your decisions really matter? Or are you only riding waves of chance, clinging to a comforting illusion? That is the unsettling blind spot. On one hand, you cannot live without meaning. On the other, when you load too much meaning onto events, you believe you can manage luck, and you imagine the universe owes you a balance. So what should you choose? Trust the chill of randomness, or keep telling the story of luck to soothe yourself. There is no final answer, and perhaps living suspended between those two choices is the quiet paradox humans must carry. Since ancient times, humans have always searched for signs of what we call luck and misfortune. Imagine you are living in the ancient world. A star-filled sky stretches above you, and every lightning strike, every solar eclipse becomes a secret whisper from the gods. When the harvest fails, you believe the gods are angry. When the hunt succeeds, you believe the gods have smiled. From those observations, people built entire systems of omens and divination. The Babylonians watched the positions of the planets and believed they determined human destiny. From that, astrology was born, survived for thousands of years, and still exists today. Ancient Chinese burned turtle shells and read the cracks to foresee the future. The Romans examined the entrails of birds to seek signs before battle. And even in modern society, you still see horoscopes, fortune tellers, tarot cards. All of them continue to nourish the belief that luck can be read in advance. Why do these beliefs endure so stubbornly? Because they touch your deepest need, the need for control. In a world full of uncertainty, believing that the stars, the cards, or a small charm in your pocket can protect you makes you feel safer. Even when reason knows it is only randomness, your heart still finds comfort. Psychologists call this the illusion of control. When people roll dice, they tend to shake their hand harder if they want a high number, and more gently if they want a low one. Although they know the outcome is completely random, the behavior gives them the feeling that they hold a little power in their hand. In the world of betting, this is even clearer. Players blow on the dice, tap the slot machine, or carry a lucky object into the casino. They are not naive. It is simply that the feeling of a little control makes the game less frightening. You may smile at such rituals, but be honest. Have you ever carried an object, said a prayer, or clutched a certain keepsake like a talisman? Have you ever believed that today is a lucky day just because you wore an old shirt tied to a happy memory? On a deeper level, entire societies run on similar beliefs. People choose wedding dates by auspicious calendars, open shops at a favorable hour, or avoid numbers considered unlucky. Different cultures assign meaning to things that are entirely random. 13 is seen as bad in the West, while 8 is revered in the East because its sound suggests prosperity. And so, from the individual to the community, we jointly create a network of beliefs, a vast system that labels randomness. We call it tradition, faith, culture. But at bottom, it is still a way to keep us from facing the chaos of life directly. Yet the paradox appears. These beliefs, however irrational, can bring real peace. When someone thinks a small charm keeps them safe, they walk with stronger confidence. When a community believes that choosing the right date will bless the harvest, they sow together with greater enthusiasm. So belief in luck may be wrong in science, but right in lived experience. This leaves you in a dilemma. Do you dare throw away all lucky illusions simply because they are not rational, even if they help you live more peacefully? Or will you continue to live with them, knowing they are only stories, but stories that make life easier to bear? Have you noticed that even in modern society, luck is still the go-to word whenever we want to explain something beyond our control? A player scores in the final minute and is praised as fortunate. An investor sells stock right before the market plunges and gets called lucky. And when someone survives by inches, the whole community exhales and whispers, "So lucky." In sports, this is most obvious. Soccer players sometimes wear old socks, refuse to change their shoes, or perform small rituals before stepping onto the field, just to keep their good fortune. Fans believe in signs too, wearing the same shirt as during the last victory, or sitting in the same seat as the previous match. All of this springs from the belief that an invisible thread connects small actions to big outcomes. In finance, the pattern is similar. When an investor succeeds, they readily attribute the win to their intelligence and skill. When they fail, they often blame bad luck. Psychologists call this the self-serving bias. You want to keep a positive self-image, so you claim credit for success and hand failure over to fortune. But then a paradox appears. If your success truly comes from skill, why do you need luck as an explanation? And if your failure is truly only bad luck, then what does your skill amount to? In the space between those extremes, luck becomes a veil that keeps you from looking straight at reality, that life contains more variables than we want to admit. Another example. In business, you often hear the phrase, "the right person at the right time." A startup may thrive not only because the idea is brilliant, but because it appears when the market happens to need exactly that. A technology may fail not because it is poor, but because it arrives too early. People call it destiny or a lucky break, but under analysis, it is only the overlap of randomness and timing. Even in your personal life, you do not escape this storytelling. When you meet a special person in a cafe, you call it a lucky coincidence. When you avoid an accident by changing routes, you believe heaven helped. But is there truly an invisible hand? Or is it only randomness to which you have attached meaning? Here is the interesting part. Believing in luck changes how you act. Researchers ran an experiment. They asked one group to carry a lucky charm and another group to carry nothing. The results showed that the group with charms felt more confident, attempted more challenges, and ultimately performed better. Look closely, and you will see that luck was not in the charm. It was in the belief that made them bolder. Once again, a paradox emerges. Luck does not exist as an objective entity, yet belief in it creates real outcomes. Someone who believes they are lucky may venture more, encounter more opportunities, and therefore truly appear luckier. Someone who believes they are unlucky fears risk, misses chances, and thereby confirms their belief that bad luck clings to me. So luck is both illusion and truth. It does not exist in the universe, but it exists in behavior, in the way you interact with the world. This very ambiguity makes it a deep paradox. You cannot prove it, and you cannot live without being influenced by it. If luck does not exist, then you must face a frightening truth. The universe is completely indifferent to you. Pause and reflect. You live, you love, you dream. You hope that everything has a reason, that what happens today will carry some meaning for tomorrow. But if luck is only an illusion, then it is all blind randomness. A falling stone can end your life. A tiny change in your body can send you to the hospital. There is no heaven to cling to, no fate to rely on. There is only cold chaos. That is why humans need luck. It is not just a word. It is a mental shield. It lets you believe that meaningless events still hold some hidden order. It lets you think that when you fail, at least there is a wheel of fortune, somewhere getting ready to turn your way. The philosopher Albert Camus spoke of absurdity. Humans always search for meaning in a universe that does not come with meaning attached. Luck is one of the ways you patch that absurdity. You attach a story to randomness so that you will not feel abandoned. Modern psychology also shows this. Our greatest fear is not failure, but the loss of control. When you believe in luck, you believe there is still some force, however invisible, watching over you. That belief reduces the anxiety that otherwise rises when you face chaos. Think of the times you pray. You may not know whether anyone is listening, but the act itself calms your heart. Likewise, believing that tomorrow will be luckier helps you sleep through a worried night. The universe may not change at all, but something inside you does. From this angle, luck is not an objective truth, but a survival mechanism. It is the story you tell yourself to avoid despair. If you accept that everything is meaningless and random, you may collapse. But if you believe that today's failure is only bad luck, and tomorrow's success will arrive, you gain the drive to keep going. Yet the paradox returns. At the same time, the belief both protects you and deceives you. It helps you survive, but also keeps you from seeing clearly that life is fragile and impermanent. You are caught between two poles, the comfort of illusion and the bareness of reality. Perhaps this is why every culture invents systems of luck, from fortune-telling and ritual to myth and religion, not because they reflect absolute truth, but because they reflect humanity's absolute fear, the fear of nothingness. Picture this. A group of early humans sits around a fire after a brutal storm. Trees are broken, animals panic, a few members have not returned. Fear fills the air. In that darkness, an elder speaks. The gods are angry. We must make offerings to seek luck instantly. Anxiety eases. Smoke rises. Drums sound. The whole tribe believes it has regained protection. That is the beginning of a social mechanism, turning randomness into shared meaning, then building collective belief upon that meaning. Humans could not survive if each person drowned in private fear. They needed a common story, and luck became the invisible glue that held people together. From there, civilizations formed around rituals for luck. Farmers prayed for favorable weather. Soldiers asked for divine protection before battle. Merchants sought good fortune before long journeys. Each prayer was not only a personal act, but a way for the community to strengthen its bond. We share this belief. Together we face uncertainty. The fascinating thing is that collective belief produces real power. When a village believes the spring festival brings a rich harvest, they plant with greater vigor. When an army believes a guardian deity stands with them, they fight more fiercely. Thus, luck is not merely an illusion. It becomes a tool that produces real results, not from gods, but from shared conviction. Across history, you can see countless traces of luck within religious and cultural systems. Egyptians believed the rise of the Nile was a sign of divine favor. Greeks built temples and asked the gods for guidance on great decisions. Vietnamese of old prayed for luck at New Year festivals, tossed coins, and drew lots to set the tone of a coming year. At a deeper level, all those rituals come from one need: to turn chaos into order, to turn uncertainty into a story we can share. A storm is no longer just a natural phenomenon. It becomes a sign from the gods. A failed harvest is no longer random. It becomes our community's misfortune. When a whole community agrees on a label, they feel safer, because no one faces the chaos alone. But again, a paradox emerges. When the illusion of luck becomes a shared belief, it can unify and divide. The same natural event can be labeled differently by two communities. One calls it a blessing, the other calls it punishment. From those interpretations, wars, conflicts, even crusades can be born. Do you see? What you call luck is no longer a private story. It is a tool of power. Whoever controls the story of luck and misfortune controls the fear and hope of an entire community. A king declares, "The gods have granted me fortune to rule." A prophet warns, "Misfortune will come if you do not obey." And so, from personal illusion, luck becomes a mechanism of social governance. On the personal level, luck helps you cope with uncertainty. On the communal level, luck helps a group survive. At the same time, it can be exploited to manipulate, to impose, to justify power. A deep paradox, something that is only a mental mirage can still shape human history. So what is luck, really? Does it exist as a supernatural force, or does it exist only within the agreement of millions who share the same story? If it is only belief, what happens when that belief breaks? In the modern world, luck becomes a mirror reflecting the things we are afraid to face. Look at science. Researchers spend decades exploring and experimenting. Yet one of the concepts that haunts them is serendipity, the fortunate accident. Penicillin, the most important antibiotic of the 20th century, was found by Alexander Fleming not through a perfect plan, but because a culture dish happened to grow mold. Many major scientific discoveries emerged from similar accidents. When scientists tell those stories, they often call it good luck. But is it truly luck, or is it the ability to recognize value inside an unexpected mishap? In business, you also hear about luck as an invisible factor. A startup that explodes into success is often described as hitting the perfect moment. Look closer, and you will see a blend of vision, skill, market forces, and timing. Luck is a simplifying word for a complex system we cannot fully control. Think of Steve Jobs. Many call him a genius who got lucky, launching the iPhone just when the world craved a smart mobile device. But if the iPhone had arrived 5 years earlier, it might have failed because wireless networks were not ready. If it had arrived 5 years later, the market would have been crowded with rivals. So was Jobs lucky? Or did he simply read the random signals of the market and turn them into an advantage? In personal life, luck appears as a microscope that helps you rationalize what you cannot control. When you pass an exam, you feel proud of your effort and also smile. I happened to get the right kind of questions that day. When you fail, you comfort yourself. It was just bad luck. Luck protects your sense of self from helplessness. It makes failure less painful and success sweeter. Psychologists call this locus of control. Some people believe they are in charge of their fate, an internal locus. Others believe life is shaped by outside forces such as luck and circumstance, an external locus. The paradox is that no one sits entirely at one extreme. You may believe hard work brings success, but when things go wrong, you still reach for bad luck as an explanation. For that reason, luck becomes our common language for uncertainty. It is how we translate randomness into words we can live with. Without the concept of luck, you would have to admit that much of life is uncertain, that your best efforts can be undone by a minor event. That is a truth too heavy for many to bear. In an interesting study, psychologists asked two groups to read a story about an accident. The first group read that the victim unluckily passed by at that moment. The second group read that it was purely random. The first group reported feeling more acceptance and less stress. Add just two words, unluckily happened, and the mind finds something to hold on to. This is the paradox of the modern age. The more we learn science, probability, and randomness, the more we realize that luck does not exist as an objective law. Yet, at the same time, we still need to use it as a language to rationalize, to soothe, to find balance inside what we cannot grasp. So perhaps luck is no longer something to believe in, but something to use. It is a psychological tool, a linguistic mask that lets you move through life's uncertainty without dissolving into anxiety. Belief in luck can be the wings that lift you, but it can also be the chain that binds you. First, look at the bright side. When a person believes they are lucky, they step into life with an open stance. They are willing to try, to take risks, to venture beyond their comfort zone. This belief makes them spot opportunities where others see only danger. A psychologist once ran a test. Participants were divided into "I am a lucky person" and "I am an unlucky person." Both groups walked down the same street where a $20 bill lay at the doorway of a cafe. The result was striking. The lucky group tended to notice the bill, pick it up, and enter the cafe in high spirits. The unlucky group often walked right past it. It turns out luck does not fall from the sky. Your state of mind determines whether you notice the gift when it appears. Here is the positive side. Believing in luck makes you optimistic, and that optimism truly produces results. Belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You think you are blessed, so you walk more confidently, smile more warmly, and open up to more chances. The world responds to you as if you really are lucky. But there is a dark side. When you rely too much on luck, you lose the ability to face facts. You keep losing in a game of chance, but instead of stopping, you insist, "Next time I will surely win." You bet larger and larger and end up with nothing. You ignore mathematical reality because you cling to the illusion of balance. Beyond games, this dependence can be dangerous in life. Someone who believes good fortune will come may sit still, waiting for opportunity instead of taking action. They can soothe themselves into thinking they do not need to try, because luck will find them. When failure comes, they blame fate rather than looking at their own responsibility. In business, how many projects collapse because leaders blindly believe a golden opportunity is right ahead, and they only need boldness to strike it rich? In love, some stay in harmful relationships, convinced they will luckily change the other person. In everyday life, some buy lottery tickets every day, hoping luck will knock, instead of working to improve their realities. So belief in luck is both medicine and poison. It can strengthen you, and it can blind you. The paradox is right here. The stronger your belief, the greater its power. That power can lift you up or pull you under. Perhaps luck is not a mysterious force, but a mirror, When you look into it with optimistic eyes, you see the image of a wide open world. When you look into it with dependence, you see a trap that keeps you circling in place. The mirror does not change, but how you look at it determines everything. And then a quiet question rises. You can use belief in luck as a tool to live better. But are you clear-headed enough not to be swallowed by it? You can do every single thing right and still fail. Someone else can make mistakes at every step and still succeed. That is the unfairness of luck. Picture two people. Both work hard, persist, and never stop trying. The first opens a small shop and pours in a decade of effort. The second opens the same kind of shop and works just as hard. But a new road is built right beside the second shop, and customers surge. That person thrives, while the other still struggles day to day. So where is the fairness? We often praise success as the inevitable result of talent and effort. Reality is harsher. The difference between two fates can be a single random variable outside anyone's control. A new road, a rainstorm, a chance opening. Then society rushes to label the successful person deserves it. The one who failed was not good enough. Look more closely, and you will see that luck played a bigger role than we care to admit. Philosophers call this moral luck. The idea is that even when you try to do everything right, outcomes still depend on factors beyond your reach. A surgeon operates with full skill, but a rare complication can turn him into a defendant. A careful driver moves through the night, and at that exact moment a child darts into the street. An accident occurs. People say, he was careless. But if the child had not appeared, the very same behavior would be seen as safe driving. Here lies the paradox. We judge people by outcomes, but outcomes contain luck. We think we are judging morality, but we are really judging accident. In business, this is even more visible. Thousands of startups are born each year, and thousands die. The survivors are celebrated as icons of talent, while few notice how many lucky breaks help them stand. The right market, the right investor, the right timing. A founder can be brilliant, and thousands of equally brilliant founders still disappear without a trace. Does that mean effort is meaningless? Number. But it forces you to face a hard truth. Effort is never everything. The world is not a fair arena where every hard worker gets rewarded. Many keep believing that beautiful story because it grants a sense of control, the comforting promise that, if I keep trying, I will succeed. In real life, randomness always holds variables that can change everything. Here's the paradox. You need to believe in fairness to keep moving, yet you must accept the unfairness of luck, so you do not collapse when life does not go your way. Think of a familiar situation. You study hard for a crucial exam. On test day, you have stomach pain and cannot focus. Your score does not reflect your true ability. Meanwhile, another person studies less, but walks in healthy and clear-headed and does well. Both are compared fairly on the same score sheet. But is that fairness real? In politics, art, sports, every field repeats this truth. Success is not only talent and effort, it is also the product of random variables. We admire, envy, and feel unsettled by the luck others seem to have. Yet this awareness opens another door, humility. When you know luck played a part in your own success, arrogance fades. When you know someone else's failure may have come from bad luck, judgment softens. The unfairness of luck, seen deeply, can become a lesson in kindness and lightness. If outcomes are shaped by luck, then what meaning does personal responsibility have? Philosophy and ethics have wrestled with this for centuries. We teach children, take responsibility for your actions. Do right and you will be rewarded. Do wrong and you will be punished. Real life is not that simple. The same action can lead to opposite outcomes because chance slips in. Consider two drivers at night. Both have been drinking. Both make the same mistake. One travels an empty road, gets home safely, and no one knows. The other drives on a crowded road. A pedestrian steps out. A fatal accident happens. Society condemns the second as a killer, while the first is simply lucky. The actions were identical. Is it fair that one is forgiven and the other imprisoned for life? This is the paradox of moral luck explored by thinkers like Thomas Nagel and Bernard Williams. If we truly believe people are responsible for their actions, then luck should not affect our judgment. In practice, it does, profoundly. We cannot separate a person from the outcome, and outcomes are always tinted by randomness. You see this in everyday life. One coworker is noticed by a manager through a random encounter and later promoted. Another, just as diligent, remains invisible and unrecognized. Is it fair to praise the first as more talented and label the second not excellent enough? Or is that only a story society tells to rationalize fortune's bias? The paradox deepens when it touches freedom. If luck shapes both success and failure, how free are you really? Are you fully steering your fate? Or are you rowing on a river full of random waves? Praise and punishment sometimes fall not because of what you chose, but because the universe threw in a different variable. Even so, society needs responsibility to function. If everyone says, "I failed because I was unlucky," or "I did wrong because fate made me," no law could hold. So we must keep faith that personal action has weight, even while knowing that results always blend effort with luck. Here is the sting. We know luck is unfair, and we must still behave as if it does not exist. Law, morality, and education all assume a fair world where you reap what you sow. Look closely, and you will see that the seed is always shadowed by luck. How then do we live with this paradox? Perhaps the answer is not to discard responsibility, but to accept its limits. You are responsible for action, not fully responsible for outcome. You can give your all and still need the humility to admit, not every success is yours alone, and not every failure is your fault. From this angle, luck's unfairness becomes an opportunity. It teaches compassion. Instead of rushing to judge, you pause and think, maybe that person just ran into bad luck. Instead of boasting about success, you smile and admit, I was fortunate in a few key places. Then luck is no longer a reason for resentment or pride, but a reminder to live with kindness and humility. The more you try to hold on to luck, the faster it slips away. You have likely felt this paradox. When you cling to the thought, I must get lucky, I need a break, I cannot fail, anxiety tightens around your ability. You tremble before the interview, tense up before the exam, and lose focus at the crucial moment. What you fear most becomes real. You call it bad luck, but it was your grasping that made luck slip through your fingers. Psychology calls this the ironic process theory. The more you try to control an outcome, the more your mind obsesses over failure. You try to sleep early because tomorrow matters, and the more you command yourself, go to sleep, the farther sleep drifts. You want to be lucky on a date, and the more pressure you feel, the more awkward you become. When things go wrong, you blame lack of luck, when the real culprit is your fear of losing it. Think of the moments when you let go. Without the demand to succeed at any cost, you relax. You enter a conversation without overthinking and suddenly find connection. You compete without fixating on the result, and that freedom lets you shine. In those moments of release, luck seems to appear, not because the universe favored you, but because you freed the energy that fear had locked down. There is a familiar paradox in love. The harder you chase the right person, the more disappointed you become. When you drop the pressure, focus on living fully. A chance meeting appears. People say, when you stop searching, love finds you. It sounds romantic, but it is simply psychology. Letting go of control makes you more natural, more open, and opportunity comes to meet you. Work is the same. Some people are obsessed with, I must succeed, I must be rich, and the obsession drains creativity and turns them into exhausted machines. Others pursue out of curiosity and passion, not fixated on getting lucky, and they are the ones who break through. Here, luck is not in the external event. It is in the inner act of letting go. Eastern philosophy speaks of this through Wu Wei, acting in harmony with what is natural, without forcing. When you stop gripping, events flow more smoothly. You are no longer wrestling to hold on to luck, and you end up finding it. Perhaps the reminder is this: luck cannot be hunted. It can only be received. Picture a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it spills through your fingers. Loosen your palm, and the sand rests. Luck works the same way. When you desperately try to hold it, you feel only helplessness. When you soften and move with the current, serendipity seems to find you. This paradox raises a question. Maybe luck is not a prize to seize, but a state to welcome. If so, are you willing to release the obsession with getting lucky and simply walk, trusting that if luck comes, it will come on its own? Perhaps luck is not something you possess, but something you stop pursuing. Think about it. How many times have you thrown everything into chasing an opening, a turning point, something you believed would change your life? You gripped the thought, if I get lucky, everything will be fine. The tighter you held it, the poorer you felt. When what you hoped for did not arrive, you fell into deep disappointment. On the other hand, there are times you loosened up and expected nothing. You took a wander with no plan, chatted with no agenda, tried something purely out of curiosity. In those moments, you stumbled on an opportunity, a new friend, or a precious idea. Outsiders said, "You are so lucky." But luck did not come from outside. It appeared when you stopped chasing it. Eastern philosophy calls this the freedom of letting go. When you stop trying to control the result, you free yourself from the fear of failure. In that freedom, you act more naturally, more creatively, and, paradoxically, reach results more easily. It is like water. Try to dam it with your hands and it pushes harder and finds another path. Let it flow, and it finds the gentlest course by itself. The more you soften, the more things harmonize. If luck exists, it moves that way too. It does not come to the tense hunter, it comes to the relaxed receiver. Another glimmering paradox. When you live with the stance of I do not need luck, you actually feel luckier. Every small thing becomes a gift. A passing smile, an unexpected favor, a quiet afternoon, all can be seen as life's kindness. If you wait only for the grand lucky strike, you will be disappointed because the universe does not revolve around your wishes. In existential thought, writers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Viktor Frankl point to this. Freedom does not lie in controlling every event, but in how we choose to respond. Luck or misfortune stops being an external label and becomes an inner choice. You decide what will be a gift and what will be a challenge to pass through. Imagine yourself at a crossroads. One road leads to success, another to failure. You do not know which it will be. If you obsess over luck, every step is heavy with worry. If you release it, you walk lighter, knowing that whichever road you take, you can find something worth living for. Then you no longer fear risk and no longer crave fortune. You step out of the luck game. This is freedom beyond luck, when you are no longer driven by hope or fear. You do not need to cling to luck for comfort because you have found something safer, acceptance. In that acceptance, paradoxically, you feel fortunate in the deepest sense, fortunate to live, to experience, to be present. So perhaps what you have been seeking all along is not luck, but freedom from the loop of luck and misfortune. And that freedom arrives when you dare to let go. When you see the same number repeating again and again in a single day, do you think it is a sign of luck? A receipt shows 1111. A passing license plate is 111. You open your phone and the clock flips to 1111. In that instant, you shiver. Your heart skips, and a voice whispers, "This has to be an omen." Humans have long been fascinated by coincidences. Our brains are built to find patterns. When random events line up, you feel that a hidden force is sending you a signal, and you call it luck. Psychology calls this apophenia, the tendency to see meaning in randomness. You look at the sky and see a dragon in the clouds. A song plays at the exact moment your heart needs it, and you believe the universe is speaking to you. These things may be random, but the feeling inside you is real. History is full of omens. The ancient Romans believed that sighting a certain bird on the day of departure could decide a battle's fate. The Ancient Chinese people believed that encountering the number 8 was a blessing, while the number 4 was a bad omen. Across many cultures, dreaming of a particular image was treated as a message from the future. And even in the modern world, you are not free from those fixations. A stock trader notices a strange streak of price increases and believes the market is sending a signal. A basketball player believes that whenever he hears the right song before a game, his shots will fall. A young person believes that meeting a stranger in a coincidental situation is the destiny of love. Here is the paradox. The more you believe in signs, the more easily you will find them everywhere. The brain works like a filter. When you start paying attention to the number 1111, you will see it more often. Not because it is happening more, but because your mind is picking it out from a sea of random noise. And when you label it good luck, you unintentionally reinforce the illusion that the universe has a plan for you. On the other hand, these signs have real power over emotion. They give you confidence, comfort, and sometimes the motivation to keep going. Someone who believes a rainbow is a lucky sign will feel more hopeful after the storm. Someone who believes that seeing a familiar number is a good sign will smile and move through the day with more confidence. The universe may not be sending any message at all, but that belief has changed their inner state, and from there, changed how they act. Yet this opens another paradox. If lucky signs exist only because you selectively notice them, are you willing to admit you are fooling yourself? Or will you keep believing because the belief makes life easier to bear? When you treat a coincidence as a message, you feel connected to the universe. You do not feel so alone. But if you dismiss every sign and say, "That was only random," you may feel clearer, but also colder. Once again, you are caught between two poles, comfort in an illusion, or loneliness in the truth. Sometimes a coincidence is so strange that you cannot believe it is only random. Carl Jung called that synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. He suggested there are moments when an outer event and your inner state line up in such an uncanny way that it feels as if the universe just sent you a message. The most famous example is a therapy session Jung described. A woman was recounting a dream about a golden scarab. At that very moment, a rare golden beetle tapped against the office window. The moment stunned both patient and analyst. For Jung, it was more than coincidence. It hinted at a deeper kind of meaning that reason could not yet explain. You have had moments like that too. You think of an old friend, and the phone rings with their name. You write down a new idea, and then stumble on an article about the very same thing. You meet a stranger just as you are questioning your career, and the conversation opens a new path. You call it destiny, fate, or fortunate coincidence. Science can explain these as cognitive selection. Each day you pass through thousands of random events, but you notice the ones that line up with your thoughts. Yet the feeling you get is real, the feeling of being guided. Inside that feeling you find belief, strength, and sometimes peace. Human beings have always tried to turn randomness into story. When a couple tells how they met, they emphasize the coincidences, the same bus ride, the same tiny coffee shop, a rare book they both loved. Those details get threaded into a melody of meaning and are called destiny. In reality, they may be two of thousands who brushed past each other by chance. But once a story is told, it becomes proof of luck and fate. In religion and spiritual practice, synchronicity is often treated as a sacred sign. A well-timed wind, a falling star, a recurring dream. Each can be read as a message from the unseen. These messages cannot be proven, yet they create real spiritual strength for those who believe. However, another paradox appears. If you assign meaning to every coincidence, you risk drifting into superstition, living in the illusion that the universe scripts your every step. If you strip all meaning away and call it only random, you lose the magic and poetry that make life feel full. So what should you choose? Believe that every coincidence has a message, or believe that none of them do? Perhaps the answer is balance. Recognize randomness, and also allow yourself to enjoy the mystery it brings. Sometimes it is the belief in meaningful coincidence that opens your heart, moves your feet, and creates real opportunities. In other words, luck is not only something that comes from the outside. It is also born from the story you choose to tell yourself about chance events. When you tell that story, luck, illusion or not, becomes a real part of your lived experience. Sometimes a random moment changes the fate of the entire world. Imagine this. In the year 1241, the Mongol armies poured into Europe, destroying every force in their path. No nation could stop them. Then, suddenly, they withdrew. The reason? The great Khan Ogedei died at home, and the generals had to return to choose his successor. A death far from the battlefield saved Europe from conquest. Europeans might call it good luck, but in truth, it was historical randomness. Had it not happened, today's map might look entirely different. Another example. In 1945, one of the atomic bombs intended for Japan was damaged during transport. Without that mishap, the fate of hundreds of thousands might have been different. Once again, chance, unwanted and unintended, shaped the course of war. Human history is full of lucky accidents and fatal misfortune. Christopher Columbus did not set out to find the Americas. He was looking for a route to India. A miscalculation of distance opened a new continent to Europe. Alexander Fleming did not plan to invent antibiotics. He simply left a dish exposed to the air. Those accidents, later called luck, turned history on its axis. Here the paradox shows up. We celebrate great figures as geniuses, but we rarely admit how often their success leaned on variables beyond their control. If Columbus had sailed a month later, if Fleming had kept a tidier lab, the human story might be different. Even the fate of entire peoples has been shaped by geographic luck. In Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond argued that the rise of civilizations owed not only to talent or will, but to chance advantages of place. Plants that could be domesticated, animals that could be bred, proximity to trade routes. A people born among wheat and horses gained a path to conquest, while another born on a resource-poor island had to struggle simply to endure. Luck, once again, threads through the destiny of the collective. Look closely, and you will see a bitter paradox. We teach children that success rises from effort, that greatness is a fair reward for the extraordinary. History keeps showing that a random event, a plague, an earthquake, a change in climate, often decides the rest. So where is fairness when one nation is gifted a fertile plain and another is born into harsh desert? Where is fairness when one scientist stumbles on a formula and thousands equally gifted remain unknown? Perhaps that very unfairness is why people cling to ideas like fate, mandate of heaven, or divine will. If we admit that everything is random, then history stops being a tale of heroes and ideals and becomes a collage of accidents. That is a hard truth to accept. From another angle, this understanding can make us humbler. It reminds you that no matter how large your success, chance had a hand in it. It also reminds you that failure does not automatically mean you were unworthy. Both individuals and nations float on a river of luck, and no one is fully at the helm. Sometimes an entire life is shaped by a single chance moment. Think back to your turning points. Maybe you chose a school, a job, or a relationship because of a tiny incident that seemed meaningless. A random handshake at a conference, a chance meeting in a coffee shop, a missed train that put you in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Looking back, you see that without that moment, your path might be completely different. Many successful people retell their lives as a string of wise decisions. Listen closely and you will always find the random thread. A casual suggestion from a stranger, an opportunity arriving when it was not expected. A brief conversation that opened a big door. They may call it preparation meeting opportunity, yet the opportunity still bears the name luck. Likewise, personal tragedies can begin with a single accident. Someone steps outside a few seconds early and is swept into a crash. Someone chooses the front seat on a bus, and that seat becomes the most dangerous place. One small decision, one tiny margin of time, and a long chain of consequences follows. Outsiders look on and sigh, "Such bad luck." Here is the paradox. You believe you are writing your story with deliberate choices, while long stretches are written by luck. One step to the left instead of the right. One phone call at the perfect moment. One unexpected rain. Each can rewrite your personal history. There is a story told again and again. A young woman misses the morning train. She is angry and declares the day ruined. That train is the one that crashes. 10 years later, she says, "The worst moment of that day is the reason I am still alive." So is it luck or misfortune, or only a label you paste on an event when enough time has passed? The mind rewrites memory this way. If the outcome is good, you call it luck. If the outcome is bad, you call it misfortune. In the instant it happens, it is only a neutral point in the stream. You are the one who turns it into fortune or disaster. This leads to a deeper lesson. You can never know whether an event is lucky or unlucky until you look back from the future. What you call bad luck today may become the first step of tomorrow's opportunity. What you call good luck today may plant the seed of tomorrow's pain. Up close, life looks like a tangle of random threads. From a distance, it resembles a tapestry woven from luck and misfortune, knotted and crisscrossed. This paradox forces a question. If chance can shape every turning point, how much does the eye really control the story? Or am I only a character in a novel whose hidden author is randomness? Perhaps the only way to live with that paradox is to learn to receive. If you try to classify every event as good luck or bad luck the moment it happens, confusion is all you will find. If you let the story stay open and allow time to speak, you may discover that every twist, pleasant or painful, is part of a larger cloth. Only in accepting that can you find calm at the sharp turns. If luck is only an illusion, what is left to hold on to in a random world? The question sounds cold, even frightening. All your life you have been nourished by stories of fortune. People wish each other good luck. You hope to get lucky before an exam, a debut, or a crucial interview. If luck is a product of the mind, are all those wishes, rituals, and charms meaningless? The answer, paradoxically, is both meaningless and full of meaning. Meaningless if you expect luck to be a supernatural force that controls your fate. The universe does not move by human prayer. A storm will not stop because you plead. A car will not swerve because you carry a charm. Randomness stays random. Uncertainty stays uncertain. Full of meaning if you treat luck as a story you tell that helps you walk more lightly. When you wish someone good luck, you are not changing the universe. You are planting a bit of confidence and warmth so they feel less alone. When you carry a charm, it does not repel misfortune, but it helps you enter the challenge with a calmer heart. In that calm, paradoxically, you are more likely to succeed. This leads to a deeper insight. Fortune and misfortune are not outside forces, but inner states. You call something good luck, not because of the event itself, but because of how your mind chooses to read it. Change your view, and the entire story changes. A failure can be misfortune, or it can be an invitation to grow. A coincidence can be random, or it can be a signal to turn a new way. From here, another paradox appears. If luck is an illusion, then you create it. If you can create it, you can live as if you are always finding luck, not because the universe favors you, but because you know how to see the gift inside what first looks like hardship. Existential thinkers often say, life has no preset meaning, but human beings are free to give it meaning. In the same way, life has no preset fortune, but you are free to name an event lucky or unlucky. So the important task is not to hunt for luck, but to learn to retell the story in a way that lets you keep living and keep moving. Imagine standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to what you want, another to what you fear. You cannot know which it will be. If you walk with the belief that whatever happens, you can turn it into part of a meaningful journey, then you rise above luck. You do not need luck anymore because you are the one writing it for your life. The strange thing is this: only when you stop caring about luck or misfortune are you truly free. All your life you have chased the shadow of luck. When you succeed, you whisper, I was lucky. When you fail, you sigh, I was unlucky. Your mind swings between the two like a pendulum. If one day you stop and drop the labels good and bad, you will notice that everything is simply happening. Recall a moment you once called a great misfortune. Perhaps you lost a job, a relationship ended, or a plan collapsed. In that moment, you labeled it bad. Years later, you see that the fall opened a new road. So was it misfortune or fortune? The answer changes with the story you tell. If so, why hurry to label it at all? Buddhist philosophy offers another view. All phenomena are empty. No event carries fixed meaning. Meaning arises when the mind clings and names it. If you stop clinging, things return to their original neutrality. Then there is no luck and no misfortune, only the flow continuing on. The paradox here is beautiful. When you release the need to know for sure what is luck and what is not, you grow stronger. You are no longer a puppet pulled by illusion, but a free person walking through uncertainty. Each event is no longer a test to sort, but an experience to live fully. Modern psychology calls this resilience. The resilient person is not the one who always gets lucky, but the one who does not break when luck turns. They keep walking, no matter what the world throws. From the outside, people say, he is so lucky. In truth, he has stepped beyond the luck game. You can see this in those who remain calm in adversity. Someone severely ill still smiles because they no longer cling to luck of healing or misfortune of pain. Someone fails and stands tall because they no longer measure their worth by fortune or bad breaks. They live as if uncertainty has no hold on them. That calm is the deepest kind of luck, the luck of freedom in the heart. Not freedom because events went your way, but freedom because you no longer need to separate them into luck and misfortune. Picture life as a sudden rain. One person obsessed with luck complains, "Why am I so unlucky that it rained?" Another shouts with joy, "What a blessing, cool rain." A third simply opens an umbrella or lets the rain soak in without praise or blame. That person is truly free. So perhaps the best way to live is neither to beg for luck nor to fear misfortune, but to walk with an open stance. Whatever comes, you can receive it as part of the journey. Then luck and unluck are no longer chains, only small waves in the river you are moving through. Is luck real? This is the question that remains unresolved from the beginning to the end of our journey. At times you believe luck is a gift from the universe. At other times, you see it as a story your mind tells. Sometimes you feel ruled by luck. Sometimes you feel so free that luck no longer matters. Maybe luck is like a reflection in a mirror. When you stare, it appears. When you turn away, it vanishes. It does not exist as an objective force, yet it is not nothing, because it has real power in your experience. When you believe you are lucky, you act differently. When you believe you are unlucky, you act differently. The world then changes according to how you step into it. So instead of asking, "Is luck real?" perhaps the better question is, where does luck exist? It may not live out there in stars, numbers, or omens. It lives in how you look, how you retell, how you choose meaning for each event. Here's the final paradox. Even when you understand all of this, you will still smile when someone tells you, "Good luck." In that moment, you do not hear a claim about the universe. You hear care. You feel the warmth people give to one another in a cold, random world. In that way, luck, even as an illusion, carries a deeper truth. It connects us. So do you need luck? Perhaps not, if you are strong enough to live inside uncertainty. Perhaps yes, if you understand luck as a human language, the language through which we comfort one another, encourage one another, and walk together in the dark. You can choose to believe that everything is random, or you can choose to look at those random moments and call them luck. Both are right and both are wrong. What remains in the end is not a definition, but the quiet inside you as you accept that you will never know for sure, and perhaps in that quiet you will find what everyone keeps calling good luck. My friend, we have traveled far together, from games of chance to turning points in history, from stray omens to private choices. You may be asking yourself, what is luck, finally? I do not have the absolute answer. No one does. But I believe this. Whether you call it fortune, misfortune, or mere chance, each experience is weaving the one story of your life. Only you can choose how to tell it. So if today you feel unlucky, remember that the story is not over. If today you feel truly lucky, smile and be grateful for the moment. All of it are pieces of a larger tapestry we cannot yet see in full. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. I hope somewhere in these lines you find a small quiet place inside. And if I may, let me wish you a little good luck, not from the universe, but from the warm way you look at your life.